Hello, class. This is Professor Martinez for the week 3 and 4 talk. I would like to highlight on some of the themes from the supplemental materials. I have something to add as it relates to those pieces. I decided to put like a best practices for engaging content presentation for you guys on what I believe are the proven strategies when it comes to developing any content. And since module 3 and module 4 both relate to messaging and the best practices for messaging when you begin to develop content, what are the characteristics of an engaging message or events. I'm gonna go through some of the what I call engagement content techniques, which you may also consider using for your clients. You see, maybe these examples I will feature come from like big multinational accounts, but the best practices could be used by any brand or organization. It's just a matter of knowing your buyer persona. It's also a matter of having your goals and your objectives clear. So what we want to do is we don't want to overwhelm people with so much promotional repetitive content. We want to create an impact, and we want them to pay attention to what we develop, what we post, what we publish on all media channels. So one way of doing that is distinguishing or making things different, maybe thinking outside the box and stopping the mentality that first people need to know the characteristics of my product and put billboards, out there to say, buy me, buy me. No, not on social media, not on traditional media even anymore. So with that said, I will go with the first effective strategy, which is storytelling. So each brand needs to find and define which voice it's going to use in terms of social media management. So that's why it's important to think about how powerful the narration is on the audiences and see if we are capable of giving a spin to our narrative and our voice through the use of stories, or because stories are different than just putting out data. Data, people just memorize it or ignore it. However, when there is a history, when there is a story, once you begin telling that story, uh, the audience wants to keep on listening to what happens in that story up until the end. So when we use narration in our social media publications, we take into consideration that people actually like, stories, gossip, and it's even hard for them to leave one story right in the middle. So that way we can step away from using the voice that we traditionally use, and we begin to tell stories. And here is an example from Allure magazine. It's a health and beauty magazine, and they ran a campaign using the format of video to develop a series of 16 chapters. And the objective was to break through the myths of beauty by providing stories of women. And these women explain how their experiences made them redefine what the concept of beauty is. So in this example, we see a woman that actually she, in an accident, 70% of her body burned. So in addition to the video where she tells the story, like what happened and how it happened, the message is inspiring because it's inspiring regarding beauty that should be distanced from only have a fixation for how you look, and it kind of invites people to admire others people's inner beauty. So through the narration of these relevant stories and relevant stories to the brand, the magazine was able to, how I call it, conquer the heart of the more than 1 million people who have watched those videos. So the first technique is storytelling. The second technique, when it comes to content development and thinking about the message, is appealing to emotions. This works. This actually works very well, because people like stories that move them to create some type of emotional reaction, be it a smile or even indignation or crying. We are sensible in essence, and there are formulas that always work. So think about kids, think about dogs, cats, sometimes tragedies, even what's going on in the world, and solidarity. So those are topics that move people to take action. And what's important here is that you gotta know when to use it and don't abuse the use of that strategy. So this is a campaign of a brand I'm sure you guys know, Tom's on Instagram, which, in addition to being very simple, it appeals to our emotions, because it puts people in a situation that it is very real, and that is that some children don't have access to education. Some children don't have access to health. So that's what they did, a day without shoes campaign, in which every people who posted an image using the hashtag without shoes, for every post, Tom's was going to donate a pair of shoes. So even though Tom's is in essence a company whose philosophy is a social responsibility, this effort appeals to the senses and the sensibility that move people to take action and help others. This is another good one that I'd like to use as an example, because here you see content that is relatable. So like you see it, and if you've been on a plane, you could easily relate to that scene. So it's a way of presenting content that is directly related to the characteristics of which your audience can relate. So if this goes back to dating, if you're on a date and you start talking about something that your date has no idea or cannot relate, he or she may ignore you. So that happens with brands on social media too. When the message is more promotional, when it doesn't have anything to do with you, people ignore it, and we don't want people to ignore our messages. So this is another situation with which we could relate. Actually, by just taking a look at the image, we can think about that situation. Maybe some of us have experimented in any flights, and so this is why this airline, through an image and an educational link to a blog, provides a situation with which we could relate very fast, because it moves, drives our attention and moves us to click. So here, there's no promotion, there are no flights on sale. It's just valuable content through a very powerful image that makes people just click straight to that. This one is another strategy, is about being authentic, about being real and sincere. People don't want to be, people want brands to talk to them like straight in the face, and don't fool them was the word I was looking for. So the same goes on social media. When we publish, our community should understand that we are talking to them in a real and authentic way, and we are not trying to fool them because we want to sell something to them. Maybe it's important on social media to be as organic, as transparent, as natural as possible. And in this image, GoPro, it's a Facebook image on GoPro's account. The brand goes behind or goes a little bit further than direct sale, because the strategy here is that users are the ones who show how to put the product in use. What are the possibilities and uses of a GoPro product per one of the audience members, according to an audience member, not GoPro. I mean, GoPro is not promising an image like this. And this is what I called transparency and being very, very sincere. I would also like to add that there's an article of PR Newswire Hall of Fame for 2019. And there are a couple of elements of success that I think show 2 points or 2 key points that you must take into consideration when creating content. And the first one is that the campaigns or the posts or even small efforts must be linked to an organization's mission and values, not just publicity stunts. So you're going to take a look at a campaign very well for Nike, and you'll see how that is linked to actually to a tagline or a slogan that you've known for years. And the second thing is that you need to create a human connection. So part of that human connection is achieved through being natural, right? And being different and trying to implement strategies like the ones I have shared. Let me show you a video that is about the case study that you have for Behr Paint's color clinics. I think
fact, it takes consumers more than 3 months to choose a paint color. That's longer than it takes to choose the house they're painting. Behr wanted consumers to pick a color and paint faster. There's only one problem. Actually, there are thousands and thousands of problems. Too many colors, and pens, and TV shows. Too much inspiration leads to color paralysis. People are afraid to pick a color. It was time for consumers to get help from the experts and check themselves in to the Behr Color Clinic. 2 days of personalized advice from trained color and design professionals on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Color experts were on call 10 hours a day. Consumers could chat one-on-one with an expert. And if they asked a question using the campaign hashtag, they were entered for a chance to win $10,000 and a private Skype session with Sabrina Soto. We kept content up for 3 weeks to help cure those difficult cases. In all, we had 39,000 landing page visits, 324% above projections, nearly 55 million potential impressions, and 95% of social comments expressed project intent. And we helped cure thousands of color paralysis cases across the country.
So here you can see the importance, first of all, of having objectives for a campaign that you can measure success at the end. Also taking into consideration the pain points from the buyer persona, which we have discussed. So here they found out through social listening. I mean, this was through just listening to people on social media and what they were talking about, how big of a hassle and how long was the process of getting to pick up a color for a paint project at home. And I think they brilliantly, first of all, identified the problem and addressed it through the color clinics, and were able to reduce that time. And that has an end result, which is even better because it translates to sales other than the impressions and maybe the engagement they got. So this is the importance of knowing your audience, because if this is a big group of people, why not address that problem through the use of content? So those were the highlights from the week. I encourage you to read the rest of the supporting materials and reach out if you have any questions. Bye now.